So my name's Jeff. So
Nice to meet you, Jeff.
what's your name?
Colin.
Colin.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, what do you think? What's your initial reaction to that
Yeah.
question?
To life
What-
after death.
Yeah. What do you think? Or if anything, I shouldn't. just
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
probably nothing.
Okay.
Probably nothing. But I hope it's whatever I can dream up in my head. All these sort of fantasy worlds I dream up. I always think of the sort of heaven imagined in Lord of the Rings is very beautiful too.
Yeah.
The whatever that elfish heaven is. I'm probably messing that up too. But maybe some sort of some whatever fantasy worlds I've imagined in my head. Hopefully that happens.
Yeah.
I don't think it does. I think there have been too many souls maybe that have passed through for there to be any one large sort of grand, greater,
Right.
intelligent design, any sort of intelligent plan.
So it sounds like the belief that nothing happens is not because that's what you hope for.
No, not at
Right.
all. No.
You hope for some kind of life after this one.
Yeah, whatever. I feel like I've maybe been, taught what heaven would look like, and it seems like, it's some version of like a peace of some kind.
Yeah.
Some sort of like grand cosmic peace or some grand sort of cosmic order, which I think makes a lot of sense. I feel like this world is very chaotic and very, very unruly.
Yeah. It's got to be something better than this, right?
Sure.
Or it'd be nice if there was.
It would be nice. There's probably nothing. And I don't love that, but I kind of think that's the way it is. And I have to.
Do you
accept that.
do you have a religious upbringing background? Or?
I don't. Both my parents grew up. My mom grew up certainly more, Christian than my dad.
Uh-huh.
But no, both of them didn't. And then, when it came to me, they didn't really. They
Steer
didn't
you
really
into anything.
steer me into anything.
Yeah.
So I've always been free to sort of think whatever I want to. And I'm pretty sure there's nothing. And
Would you say you don't believe in God or a higher power along with that?
No, I certainly do not believe in any sort of higher power. I
Okay.
think if there is something after,
Uh-huh.
if it isn't nothing, that I'm pretty sure that it's nothing. But if there isn't, and it can't be that, this sort of grand, fantasy, I guess sort of in my imaginations, it's maybe some sort of like, maybe like ability to become my own god,
Yeah.
But if it's not either of those two things, I think it is something that is far beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
And it looks maybe in the way that extraterrestrial life looks like, where we have these sort of limited ideas of what intelligent beings look like, but maybe that's even beyond what we can even perceive as intelligent
we
life.
generally kind of start to make them look like ourselves.
Eventually, or there's some of these grand sort of tentacle monsters, but what if they sort of transcend any form at all? I can't think of that, and even things that I've read, and I cannot even conceive of something that's not some sort of bipedal,
right.
alien, or little gray man or little green man.
So when I asked you if you believe in God, you sounded pretty sure, even more sure than, because I usually find that the belief in an afterlife or the possibility kind of goes hand in hand, but it seems like you're more sure that God doesn't exist than that we have a spirit that might go on somehow.
Absolutely.
So is there a particular reason? Is that something you've really thought a lot about and have an identifiable reason, or is it just kind of some total of all your thoughts, or
I think it maybe has more to do with seeing all the like religious conflicts around the world, and how they become so intense, even amongst like countries that may have two different denominations,
right?
And then they start to like with two different like Christian denominations or two different like Muslim denominations. Even how that can split an entire country apart.
So it's conflict between the different religions and within the different religions.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. I think if there was some grand edict coming down, from the sky, I guess what we kind of think of these Abrahamic religions as.
Yeah.
There would be one consistent voice. You would
right.
maybe think, or at least I imagine it.
Yeah. One thing that I'm learning a lot from these conversations, and so I come from a Christian church, so like I read the Bible. So the Bible has taught me that in the very beginning that man was, like we rebelled against God, and immediately, like you're familiar with the story of Adam and Eve and all that. So immediately their eyes were open, they knew good from evil. And it talks about that we have a moral conscience throughout, from that point on, right? And so that comes to me from the Bible. But then as I talk to people, I see this common thread that everyone has a moral conscience. Now, we don't necessarily agree on the details of what is moral, like is it wrong to have more than one wife, or should you just have one wife? But everyone agrees that you shouldn't just go and sleep with any woman you see. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the idea that, but there is a moral, like a sense of morality that's kind of beyond ourselves that we didn't come up with, that's kind of unites all religions. The idea that there is an accountability, something greater than ourselves that we're accountable to. Would you say you have that moral conscience?
No, I don't, and I actually think I disagree with that.
Okay.
The idea that there is some singular kind of moral thorough line, even I think the sort of ultimate maybe sort of moral judgment, thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
I think about how much killing has been done in the name of a god, or in the name of God himself, and how then people will then justify that too, throughout the Troubles or throughout the Serbian
I guess what I'm saying is not that we keep it, but so for the very fact that you're saying, hey, look at all the people that are killing people, tells me that you believe it's wrong, like they shouldn't be doing that. See what I'm saying? And so it's like, so the very fact that we come up with excuses, okay, well, they're from a different country, I've got to demonize them in order to go to war with them, we've got to demonize the enemy, that kind of thing. We got to make them seem like they're pure evil before, and then now we feel like it's okay to go out and kill them. See what I'm saying? And so we come up with reasons why, but the whole idea is that we have to have those reasons. We don't just go out and kill people for no reason, if that makes sense. So maybe I should have said that we all have this moral conscience, but we don't keep it. And that's kind of a universal of all the religions, is that we know better, but yet we continue to break it. And so then how can we justify our existence if we, do what we know we ought not to do, that sort of thing. So would you say you're a good person?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. I feel like I have the things that I believe in, and I stick to them as closely as I can.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So yes.
So for example, like, I don't know how much exposure you have to Christianity, but you're familiar with obviously the Ten Commandments, I'm thinking. So let me give you a little good person test, okay? So, Colin, how many lies have you told in your life?
Hundreds, probably.
Okay.
That nothing ever ranging the sort of great serious lies that I feel like I have to sort of keep up, but maybe
you don't let it get too complicated.
Exactly, but maybe little white lies to make sure somebody's not too upset.
Yes. So if you tell lies, you would be a
a liar or a sinner. Sure, I don't know where you're trying to lead me.
Yeah, so I'm pointing the finger at myself. I've told lies.
Yes.
And yes, I would be a liar.
Yes.
You know, have I stolen? Have you ever taken anything in your life?
Yeah.
So you would be a thief, right?
Yes.
So I hope I'm not like saying anything I wouldn't say to myself.
Yeah.
But it's more like on that moral ground, like on that, for example, the Ten Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible actually says they're made not for us to get back to God because we've already broken them, but we look at the Ten Commandments and we see it's like a mirror. We see ourselves by a certain standard. Mm-hmm. And so by that standard, man, I am a liar, I'm a thief. The Bible says, you know, you shall not murder. But I've actually but then Jesus said, okay, it's wrong to murder, but don't even hurt someone with your words, right? Don't call your brother a fool in anger, you know. Have I done that? Yeah, man. You know, it's horrible. I've hurt people that way. You know, I've committed, I've broken the spirit of the law, if not the letter of the law. Have I committed adultery? The Bible says if you look with lust and have lust in your heart, you know, you're committing adultery, you know, sex outside of marriage. So like down the line, I've broken every one of the Ten Commandments. So I'm a religious guy, I go to church, but man, I am, if it's based on being a good enough person, I'm in trouble. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If I don't know, again, I don't know, like you're aware that, you know, the Bible says that God is the one who gives us this moral accountability. He's the one who holds us account, something called Judgment Day. Would you be guilty or innocent on a judgment day like that?
I think the idea of a judgment day is ridiculous. The thing that I've become very interested in lately, or not lately, but I've kind of been interested in this all my life. I love dinosaurs. I love ancient mammals. I love, you know, this history of this earth. This billions, it's 2 billion years old. And the hundreds and hundreds of millions of years that came before us. And you think about how short of a time modern humans have been on this planet. You think about the amount of changes that have happened in the past 50 years. Or you see the mass extinction events that happened. These mass extinction events happened for millions of years. This was a very long, slow decline.
Yeah.
I think this idea that there is some grand edict of one single day that wipes out the good or the evil, and we bring some of them down to hell, some of them up to heaven, is in a flash of time is absolutely absurd.
Yeah. Obviously you'd have to believe in God to believe in that.
You have to believe in God, and and that's I think that that God could have a higher, this sort of, to me, I feel like God manifests itself as this idea that there is maybe one, the best way I can describe it is, I feel like the belief in God is humans' belief in our ability to sort of control our own fate on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And humanity has this ability to control its fate on earth. We don't. We have much less control over this earth. The earth and nature and these, what is being created on earth.
Civilization or whatever.
Even civilization, I think, is much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
This civilization, modern civilization, I would say modern civilization probably begins with the end of World War II. It has been around in a blink of a time for as long as Earth has been around.
Do you feel like we're getting better or worse? Like morally, because you were talking about like progress. And,
sure.
And so do you feel like humans are becoming?
No, I don't necessarily think we are becoming more sinful or we are becoming further away from God or some. Yeah, I think.
So you feel like we're becoming better then?
No, I think it has always been sort of a consistent basis. I think technology allows us to sort of harness the earth and maybe control Earth a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's always been a sort of flat line of morality.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I think there is, there's been progress made, but then I think with that progress, then there are some things lost with that progress too. I don't necessarily think like 2,000 years ago those first Christians were the only pure people on Earth.
Yeah. Do you feel like where do you like so the bad things people do? Where do you think that comes from? You know, like when we do. I mean, obviously you read the paper. There's horrible things happening all the time.
Yeah, I think it maybe just comes from the sort of our pure animal instinct of survival. You know, I don't think there is like, you know, one like grand, you know, thorough line of, okay, well, all these evil things happen because of this one thing, and all good deeds, you know, it's not like Lucifer is like shooting thoughts up into us to say, oh, this is the one bad deed to do, and it's not like God is shooting good thoughts down into your head. It's not some like, you know, grand chess match.
Do you feel like if it's a result of, say, evolutionary processes, do you think there is such a thing as morality then? Like, is it okay if someone feels like you should go around and kill people? Is it okay for him to do that and carry that out?
No, but
obviously not.
No, obviously no.
I would have thought you would have said no, but so the point is that there's got to be some kind of higher morality than, say, evolutionary processes or what we've developed into.
So
I guess that would be what I'm trying to say.
So then, as we become a more secular society, which we are becoming, and I think as a whole, I do think that's good. You know, as somebody who is a non-religious person, I know a lot of Christians feel like, you know, if only, you know, and I think even certain denominations of Christians, certain denominations of Muslims believe, you know, if only we had this denomination, then, you know, we would be good and just and all.
Right.
I think as we become a more secular society, those edicts do have to come from, you know, the top, from the states, and then, you know, and a lot of laws from the state, not just the United States, but from, you know, whatever country, whatever jurisdiction you live in, they have to come from that. And obviously a lot of our morality, of course, is influenced by Christianity, you know, because that's sort of the building blocks of where that came from. But I think it has to come from a modern secular state, completely removed from the church itself.
So kind of the end result of the progress, at least at this point in history, is state control of people.
Well, I feel like certainly maybe more libertarian-minded people, smaller government-minded people fear this, you know, grand edict of like great state control. And so no, I do not want, you know, microchips in our brains, you know, directing us where to go.
Right.
But you know, there does have to be a lot of nudging from the state, you know, in putting up speed limits along roads.
Yeah.
That is a that's state control right there.
That's true.
You know, or telling people to put their seatbelts on so that they don't die in car crashes. That's state control. Most state control is not bad. You know.
You know what? I think we would probably agree on that more than, you know, like as you bring up those examples, it's like, we do need, you know, wives need to be able to tell their husbands, put your seatbelt on in the car because it's against the law, not because, you know, you're afraid of anything or whatever. You know, it's kind of how human nature works, families and groups and things like that. So, I don't want to, you know, what's the word for it? Take up too much of your time, overstay my welcome, put it that way.
Of course.
But yeah, I would love to kind of, I don't know, I guess everything that you're saying kind of boils down to the very strong belief that there is no God, that there could be no higher power.
Yes.
And,
I would say that is significantly stronger than any sort of belief in life after death. That in ways that, choosing to live my life, I'd live that much more with the knowledge of there is no God than with any sort of, as far as what happens to my soul after, I am much more concerned about that than any sort of, grand judgment from a higher power.
Yeah.
I would say that's where I fall.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just so you know, I mean, as a Christian, like that whole belief that there is a heaven and a hell, that we're either in a right relationship with our Creator or not, after we die, is a driving force of our lives. And so I don't know you, but I would love to see you in heaven, and so I hope you understand that, that in the Bible, I don't know if you studied all the different religions much, I would say a person should be motivated to study religions even if they don't believe in God, because you want to understand human nature and understand people and that sort of thing. So I don't know if you have cracked open a Bible much in your life.
I have. I mean, it is all very interesting. I think where it almost immediately loses me is this idea that all of these edicts happen to fall on one person in the Middle East about 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And this is the one thing. What about a lot of Eastern teachings as well?
Yeah.
Where do they fall on Earth? And then what about then the teachings throughout all the world, the North, South America, the Africa, that the Creator didn't happen to put, I guess however you want to define Jesus Christ, as whether his Son or his Holy Spirit or himself. Why did that Creator not end up in Fiji 1,500 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, that's...
Well, why did it happen in the one place, in the one civilization that was one of the best documented civilizations of all time, in the Roman Empire?
Yeah. I mean, I guess if God did appear in Fiji or some other place, we'd be asking the same question. So it almost seems like God should appear everywhere equally, for there to be total symmetry to how God appears on the earth
at all times, or God should be God should be like appearing at all times. You should have unfettered, unwavering access to him. And I know people, who go through prayer do, achieve that, or feel like they do achieve that.
Yeah.
But to me, there would be sort of undeniable, just absolute proof,
Yeah.
That is just kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah, one of the things I think is important to understand is that if we apply material requirements, I guess, like scientific requirements, to an immaterial spirit with a will of his own, we're going to be disappointed, because if I was to conduct an experiment on God, and then God performs a certain way every time I conduct that experiment, I'd have to say, I think I got God under control. I can manipulate the variables, and I can get this God to do what I want.
Yeah.
But if God is beyond our experiences, I mean, that would be... So I would say if I could figure God out scientifically, then that wouldn't be God. It'd be like electricity. Like it's a bigger power than us, but we can control it somehow, through our knowledge. So, so the Bible presents God as not like a genie in a bottle that we rub the bottle and it's got to come out and do our bidding. It's more like God's in control. He made us in a way that we can relate to him, made in his image. That we can have a relationship with our Creator. That relationship's broken because of our rebelliousness, going our own way, wanting to be gods ourselves, that kind of thing. But that, one religion of the world provides for God actually coming and redeeming us, where the other religions basically So when I talk to people of a lot of different religions, I do see a lot of similarities as far as, like I was saying, moral conscience, and the way most religions, and even Christianity, when people haven't done their homework, don't even understand their own religion, they grew up in it and didn't really study it. Most religions somehow say we can get a right relationship with our Creator through our own efforts, like by being a good enough person, or getting involved in some kind of social issue, or doing some religious activity.
And as you talk about creation, are you a creationist? Do you literally believe in, say, like the story of Adam and Eve?
I do, but I don't believe it's necessary. Like, a lot of Christians don't believe in it. So when I think of God making the world in 6 days, right, and then resting on the seventh, my question is, well, why did he take so long? In other words, God is so great he could, in an instant create everything. Why did he do it in a process, as presented?
So you also then maybe believe the Earth is very young as well, then, too?
Yeah, or? I mean, I believe it has the appearance of age, and that science can explain. For example, we see starlight coming from stars that are, hundreds of thousands of light years away, right? Well, if the Earth is young, then what that means is when the stars were made, the light streaming from them had to be arriving already. Like, in other words, when the star was made, God had to make it so that the light was already coming, arriving.
In your mind, God does not only just control the Earth, he controls the entire universe.
Oh, yeah.
The known universe.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's a big, So for me to say God would not be capable of that, and that everything that's in the Bible, for example, Jesus walking on the water, somehow I need to explain that, is to say that God isn't that big, right? That, okay, well, he must have been walking on very shallow water, or there must have been some way to explain it, and it's like, you know what, if God wants to break his own law, so God as the creator would be the one who created the physical laws to begin with. And so if you've ever seen Chicago police run through a red light, I mean, well, they didn't make the laws, but what I'm saying is they're above the law. Like, God is above his laws. He may, he may operate in a certain way most of the time, but he's not bound to follow his own laws, If he wants to take the form of a man and walk on water, that's his prerogative, If a scientist was in the Garden of Eden and chopped down a tree that God had just created a week before, well, first of all, if God said to the scientist, "See that tree? I know it looks old, but I made that a week ago." The scientist chops the tree down and counts the growth rings. I think he probably would have found 40 growth rings in it. Oh, this tree is 40 years old. You're lying to me, God.
So, I think then, as sort of a lifelong skeptic, that this is something that then becomes a little more frightening to me. The sort of unwavering belief in God.
Yeah.
These just sort of the refusal to question that.
So one of the ways it works out is, for me, this is just my own theories, I guess. And like I say, as Christians, we're not bound, a lot of Christians take a more symbolic view of these, like origins and things like that. But I think, if Earth was created in a mature state, in other words, man was made as a man, not a baby that grew up, or as a tree was created, not a seed that had to grow. If the Earth was made in a mature state, then I would have no problem with the idea that maybe some of our theories of, say, plate tectonics, might help us to find oil in certain places based on our theory. Even though it may not be as old as we think it is, it still has the appearance of age. And so I don't discredit science, I guess is what I'm trying to say with all that, you know? Just because I believe the stars aren't as old as scientists say doesn't mean I'm not awestruck by how many millions of years it would take to get to them.
Yeah, so what, and, you know, I've talked to people with views kind of similar to yours.
I don't believe the Earth is flat, by the way.
I mean,
and the Bible doesn't say that.
Yeah,
so
no.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother thing you gotta deal with.
I actually think there's like people that are trying to make people like myself who would say the Earth is young look foolish, which I realize I probably look foolish anyway. But to go in and say, okay, and the Earth is flat, it's like, okay, that's the frosting on the cake.
Interesting where you draw the line. But I think I don't mean that it's a
it's not a problem.
I guess then, you know, the way you describe this, to me, this very much sounds like we are living then in essentially a simulation,
like a Truman Show, right?
of what God was. We are living in like God's simulation.
Yeah. So then the complaint, and I went through this myself, would be like, is God lying to us? Is God trying to fool us?
Yeah.
And that's why I said the thing about the scientist. If God told the scientist it's only a week old, and the scientist cuts the tree down and says, no, it's 40 years old, you know, the scientist can't say that if indeed it was only a week old, but has the appearance of age, then God's not lying to him. So we have the Bible, and it tells us these things about the age of the earth, for example, which is subject to, you know, variation. I'm not completely convinced that it's as young as a lot of people say it is, you know, but I'm thinking in the tens of thousands of years, not tens of millions of billions of years. But so if God told us how he did it, or not how he did it, but that he did it, then I don't think God is lying to us. I actually think, you know, Darwin's theory, when it first came out, there was people within a year, just a couple years of his theory, who are now getting funding from their university departments, starting up whole new departments, being on the cutting edge of you know, biology, for example, based on this theory that had totally been, you know, just came up with. Darwin himself said he didn't have the evidence for it, and already people's lives and careers are revolving around it to the point where they would be discredited if they said anything different, you know. Well, not that soon.
No.
But they were people wanted to be on the cutting edge, and so siding with this theory that really sounded good on paper, but they didn't have the evidence for it.
But that was discredited, and at times like violently discredited for a long time.
Oh,
still. You know, so it's
but not in academia. It was more in public, you know,
in
policy,
public, but still in still people that still held a lot of dominant positions.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, gotten more and more powerful as it went, but I'm saying, like, already very quickly, without evidence, people were basing their whole lives and careers on it. Now we're to the point where a scientist can't even publish in a scientific journal and mention God and expect it to get published. So even if he's a Christian scientist, you know, someone who's a scientist who believes in God, believes in religion, he's got to totally separate that out from, you know, and so we're getting like this whole secular view of reality that is it's censored out, you know, from the very jump street.
This is where you start to lose me, and this is where, you know, I sort of then start to lose a lot of Christians whenever they start to bring up. I mean, I the only way I can say this is a certain kind of persecution complex. Christianity still holds a very dominant position in our society, and still does, and still holds a lot of power. There are certain states in our country that are still very much run by people who hold very powerful positions in the church. Yeah. You know, Utah is an entire state that is it's a very Mormon state too. Or
Yeah.
you look at many states that have a serious Baptist tradition.
Yeah. No, I'm
and
talking
how
more
much
about
power
just academia.
They have to. Okay.
At this point, but yeah, no, it's definitely part of politics. I'm, for a long time it's been the status quo is, it's been cool to call yourself a Christian. Now I don't think it is so much,
No, I wouldn't say it is.
But there was a long time when your credentials as a politician depended on you saying you believe in, or you're part of a certain church, or whatever. So I realized that, Now, it's definitely moving in a more secular direction.
Yeah, and I think...
And I'm not so concerned about it. I just saw a meme today that said something about Christians complaining that there's a war on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And the meme was like, no, that's called freedom. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. People need to be able to express themselves, and that is important.
Express what they believe Christmas to be. Like Christmas is never going away now.
So I actually don't think Christianity is Jesus. It is meant to be the dominant, hit you over the head, force you to be a Christian kind of thing. That's not the Christianity Jesus taught. It was strongest when Christians are in the minority, actually. So I'll give you my my YouTube channel.
Okay,
there's about 3 videos back, 2 videos back, I called the video Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
And so I was talking with this other guy about, is Christianity part of the establishment, or are you anti-establishment if you're a Christian?
Yeah.
So I wrote about that a little bit. So you might be interested. So
yes,
good talking with you.
Absolutely, I'm
Getting
very cold.
out.
I have to get out of here.
So,
but what do you think?
You gave me more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, of course. what do you? Again, and this was definitely one of the better conversations I've had.
Good.
Because I'm, before this, living in South Carolina.